Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me on this morning's live webinar about an introduction to sales. So it's an athlete's guide to a successful career in sales. This is going to be a fun one. I'm very excited about it. It's probably going to be my favorite one to talk about as I'll go into the story of, I guess, what a career in sales has done for me so far after basketball. But I'll just wait a little bit before we officially get going, just for a few more people to jump in. You'll see there in the corner, there's a chat box as well. So I want to make this as interactive as possible. So please, if anyone has any questions, just pop it in the chat box. There's also a poll question that you'll see of asked athletes, and it's about any concerns that anyone has about a career in sales. What's from stopping you to maybe entering a career in sales or succeeding? So if you can please answer the poll question when you get a chance. Just quickly as well, I've got a new mic here. You might or might not see it, but if it doesn't work, if the mic and you can't hear me, just let me know. Please, somebody pop it on the chat and I'll take it off and get rid of the mic. So yeah, appreciate that. I'll just, we got, someone's put a chat in, so maybe the mic doesn't work. Mic works? Cool, thank you, Claudia. Appreciate it, awesome. Cool, we'll get going. So I wanted to do this webinar to give athletes an introduction of what a career in sales is all about. In the last 6 months, I've spoken to hundreds and hundreds of athletes about sales, and there have been a number of questions that people have come up with, asking me what a career in sales looks like, what do I have to do I have to call, etc., etc. So I've compiled a list of all the most common questions, and I'm pretty much going to answer them here for everybody today. But just a quick backstory. So I used to be a professional basketball player for about 8 years. It's a span of elite and professional. I played college basketball in the US, went on to play professionally in Europe, and then finished up my career in Australia. I had a really poor transition after basketball. I just had no idea what I wanted to do and where to go and how to go about it. And eventually I landed a role in sales, in B2B sales, and honestly, I never looked back since. I'm very thankful for that career, and I'll tell you a little bit of what it's done for me and how it all works. So anyone that has any questions about this, please pop it in the chat box, and I'll be more than happy to answer. So I mentioned I've spoken to hundreds of athletes in the last 6 months since I've gone full-time with this venture. I've been running this business on the side for 2 years and finally got the guts to go into it full-time. So it's been 6 months now, full-time. And I've also spoken to hundreds of ex-athletes who are now high-performing sales professionals. And most of them are making at least 140, 150K plus. I've spoken to some who are making 600-700K a year by being sales professionals in their career. And the most common feedback I get from these athletes in terms of why they've managed to be successful in sales, in some form or another, their answer is, I embrace the struggle. This is why I'm so passionate about athletes, most athletes, having the attributes to be able to succeed in sales, okay? To become a professional athlete, you have to go through a lot of struggle in your chosen sport, right? So I'm not talking, most people see the games that you play on weekends or the race that you're doing, you're winning or losing, whatever it is, it looks awesome, it looks fun, you're having a lot of fun, winning, you're on TV, etc., etc. But no one sees the struggle that athletes put in to get to where they are. Right, the early morning wake-ups, whether it's racing, swimming, team sport, whatever it is, the preseason training, the weights, the weightlifting, the running, the cardio sessions, that's hard, that's a struggle. And for whatever reason, athletes are able to embrace the struggle. And we love the struggle. Throughout my basketball career, I learned to love the struggle, and once you learn to love the struggle, the process, the rewards come. I still don't really have an answer to why athletes love the struggle so much. If anyone has any, can shed some light on it, please put it in the chat box. I think because we love the reward afterwards, and we love what we're doing, but everybody would have a different answer. The bottom line is, athletes are resilient, competitive, driven, can be very, very motivated, and have a hunger for success. And for that reason, we embrace the struggle. Most of sport, especially professional sport, is a struggle, right? You're training every day Sometimes you do on 2-a-days, and then you get to play games on weekends or whenever you play games. That's the fun part. But the majority of the time, it's not fun. It's a struggle, right? So it's the same with sales. The athletes that are able to embrace the struggle day in, day out, love the struggle, love the process, because I'm telling you, sales is a struggle. It's a massive struggle. I've struggled so much. You lose so much. It's stressful. Like shit, I've had times I wanted to cry and just give up. I'm telling you. Even now, in the last 6 months, since running this business full time. So if you're not willing to embrace the struggle in a career in sales, switch off right now. There's no point of continuing to listen to this webinar. You have to love the struggle, period, because it's a struggle. So I don't want to sugarcoat it to anybody. Picture pre-season training, especially in your first 2 years in a career in sales. It's going to be pre-season training for 2 years, non-stop. That's the struggle. So if you're not ready for that, and if you're not willing to struggle and then love the struggle, embrace the struggle, switch off from this webinar right now. So I just wanted to put that out there right now from the get-go before I get into any of the rainbows and lollipops of sales. Like no sugarcoating it. It's a struggle. It's tough. So just want to get that out there first. All right, so just to give everybody a bit of an idea of what I'll talk about today, just want to set a bit of an agenda for the webinar. So I'll touch on what is sales and the types of sales roles that are out there. Then I'll talk about who's fit and who's not fit for sales. I did mention the attributes that athletes build up. I think those, but the resilience, the drive, the competitiveness, the discipline, those you have to succeed in sales. But there are also certain personality traits, I think, that are highly important to be able to put up with that struggle that I mentioned earlier. So I'll talk about what those are, and if you don't happen to fit within those traits, it might not be for you. Then harping on the struggle and the day-to-day process of sales, I'll talk about the sales process. So that's the grunt work of sales, what a day-to-day looks like, what you're actually doing and how you go about it. And of course, everybody's favorite question, do I have to cold call? I'll cover that as well. And then I'll go into the benefits of working in sales. So what happens if you do well in sales? What happens even if you don't do well in sales, but you stick with it? What other doors can sales open up for you? So I'll talk about that as well. And then I'll talk about a project or a program that I'm working on at the moment called Another Plan Daniel. More details on that later on. So again, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to put it on the chat. And also, if you can answer the poll question that I got going on at the moment, that would be fantastic as well. So I'll get into sales. What is sales? Mainly talking about business-to-business sales. So you're working for a particular business that's selling a service or a product, and you're selling that to other business owners, other companies. And bottom line, straightforward, sales is all about generating growth, generating cash, right? You're working in sales in one form or another. You are responsible for generating sales. You got that on your shoulders. The burden of growth is on you. You're the front line, and you got to generate sales. So it's pressure, but sport is also pressure. So athletes are no strangers to pressure. So what forms of sales jobs are out there? What types of jobs? So these are the most common meaning in the corporate space. The most companies give to these types of jobs, but not everybody has this meaning. So I'll talk about what I mean by that shortly. So a business development manager is one, and your role is purely driving new business. So it could be generating phone calls, generating meetings, going out to meetings and trying to close the sale. And you constantly do that. Your focus is new business, new business, new business. That's what a business development manager does. And the average salary for a business development manager is around 100K. So these numbers are derived from Indeed. So this is the average salary in Australia. And keep in mind, it's the average salary. Most jobs in sales have commission on top as well. Commission is depending on the company that you work for. It can be anywhere from 10K to maybe another extra 100K. Again, it depends on what company you work for. So the base salary without commission for a business development manager is around 100K, just to give you an idea. Then there's account managers and relationship managers. So the responsibility of this particular sales professional is not so much driving new business, It's more so maintaining relationships with the current clients that you have and then upselling. Don't get me wrong, it's still about growth. A lot of account managers, and this might be the bad sales professionals, want to be an account manager or relationship manager because they don't want to do the new business sales. I don't want to be responsible for driving sales for the company, so I'll be a relationship manager maintaining relationships. Don't get me wrong, you're still responsible for growth. You still have to upsell the clients that you already have. It's slightly easier than business development manager because the relationship's already made. They know the company, the business that you work for. Because it is slightly easier, clearly the average base salary in Australia is around 85,000. Again, this is base, not including commission. The other types of roles are sales reps. These are typically in the FMCG space, apparel space, those types of industries. And your role is basically being on the field. You usually have a car along with this role as well, and a laptop, and you're typically in the field, again, driving new business, maintaining current relationships, and upselling. It could be a little bit of both. The sales rep position is typically, that title is typically given to someone from an FMCG or apparel, or those types of roles that I mentioned. It's a mixture of both account management and business development management as well. Average salary is around $70,000 for sales reps in Australia. Now, the slightly junior roles, more junior roles are inside sales rep, lead generation professional, or sales development rep. The SDR, or sales development rep, is typically derived from the tech industry. And these are entry-level junior roles for sales. Typically, their average salary is around $65,000. For these types of roles, your responsibility is purely driving leads. So you're typically on the phone. You might be making 60 to 70 calls, sometimes 100 calls a day, and your job is to generate new leads for the business. Then the business development manager or the account manager or whoever they call would then close the deal for you. So you generate the leads. Once the lead is there, it's nurtured a little bit, then somebody else will do the closing, the meeting, the presentations. So that's the inside sales rep. If anyone has any questions about those forms of sales jobs, a little bit more detail, please put it in the chat box. I'd be more than happy to go into it. And then now we go into the more senior roles, which is more around the management side of things. So a sales manager is one who coaches and manages the sales professionals. So the sales reps could be an account manager, business development manager, sales rep, inside sales rep. They typically manage the sales team. And an average salary for a sales manager in Australia is just over $110,000. Obviously, again, they also get commission. Commission could be anything depending on how high performing your team is. And then the highest management role for a sales director, after that, you probably have GM, general manager, COO, and others. But typically, the most senior role is an account director or sales director, and the average salary for that is $180,000 plus commission as well. So again, what you could be making from there, the world's your oyster, really. The more money you bring into the company, the more commission you make. So there's a quick overview of the types of sales jobs out there. Just a quick disclaimer: if you're applying for a role to be an account manager, or a business development manager in interviews, make sure that you read the job description clearly and make sure that you're asking questions to ensure that, hey, I'll be an account manager here, or I'll be a business development manager here. I've worked for companies where I was a business development manager, but I was actually an account manager. And I worked for companies where I was an account manager, but it was actually a business development role. So some companies don't have, some companies think of an account manager differently than others. So it's make sure you ask and know what you're getting yourself into. I've made that mistake before. So if anyone has any questions around that as well, please feel free to put it in there. The most, at the moment, and this is according to Indeed, again, the industries where sales professionals make the most money is technology and IT, media technology, recruitment, and the medical and pharmaceutical industry. So pharmaceutical reps, recruitment consultants, they tend to make a lot more money. Media technology, so it could be digital platforms, data, insights, selling to large enterprises, and then technology in general. All kinds of software sales, tech sales roles at the moment are booming, and they've been booming for the last 15 years. So the reason that sales professionals make the most money in those fields, I guess the common sense is those industries are doing well and booming. Also, the commissions are typically the highest in those industries, and even the base salaries are getting higher and higher. So that's, typically at the moment, the industry that I've been placing the most athletes into sales roles has been technology and IT. Prior to COVID, it's been recruitment. Recruitment's a bit down at the moment, but if you are able to get a role in recruitment and do well, you can make some really, really good commission. So I hope that makes sense. Gives you a quick overview of what is sales, the types of sales roles that are out there, and the types of money that you can earn. So, who's fit for sales and who's not? Is sales really for me? Will I be able to put up with it? So, initially, I mentioned I think athletes would be, and it's been proven from athletes I've placed in roles. Most athletes have the innate attributes to succeed in sales because they're used to struggling. They have resilience. They're disciplined. They're driven. And if you have those things, everything else can be taught, right? So you can succeed in sales. Now, the personality traits as well that you need to have to be able to put up with the struggle, right? To be able to deal with the losses and the rejection. These are the attributes I think you need to, or the personality traits you need to have. So empathy is a huge one. The most successful sales professionals are empathetic. They have empathy towards other people. So you have to be able to put yourself in the shoes of your prospect, or you have to be able to understand how other people feel and deal with that accordingly. You have to know when to say the right things and when not to say it, what buttons to push and what buttons not to push. So you have to be okay with that, and you have to have extreme empathy. I don't know how to measure empathy. I don't know if there's a technology out there to measure. You either have it or you don't. I think you can work on it, but if you think that you're not as empathetic to other people, reconsider a career in sales. The other one is you have to love people. I think we all love people. We're all social beings, but you also have to love ourselves. You have to love annoying people, because in a career in sales, you're dealing with people all day, every day, and if you're unable to deal with ignorant people, assholes, idiots, etc., etc., everybody has different perceptions of what that looks like. They're all out there. Don't get me wrong. I could be an asshole to somebody. I might not be. I don't know. That's where the empathy part comes in play. But you have to be able to love all kinds of people and deal with them and work with them. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a line that certain people might cross, and there's values that you have. And I'm a firm believer that your set of values should align with your prospects or your clients or your customers' set of values. If it doesn't, let them go. There's a certain line, but there's a good way about letting people go, and there's a bad way about letting people go. Again, that's where the empathy comes in place. I'll give you an example. I fired a client just yesterday. I've been working with this particular client to fill a role for about 3 weeks. And just the more and more I dealt with the client, I just didn't like the way that he was treating my candidates. I didn't like the way he was talking to me. And I was like, you know what? This isn't working out. I think we might both be wasting our time. It's probably best if we split paths from here. I hope you don't mind. And he really appreciated my honesty. So one of the reasons, I'll just quickly tell you, one of the reasons I didn't like the way that he was dealing with people, he's a firm believer that sales professionals should stick with one company for the rest of their career. That's ideal scenario for some people, but I think it's just not the way it is in sales. I think the most successful salespeople are a little bit entrepreneurial, they're business minded, maybe they want to start their own businesses one day. Those salespeople tend to be successful. So I didn't agree with that notion, and other things happened as well, so I got rid of that client. So you have to be able to know when's enough, but ultimately you have to love people. You have to be a people person. The other one is tolerance. So you have to have, especially when you start out, you have to have tolerance, and you have to be able to be tolerable of certain people. So you might be dealing with idiots or people you don't like for a while just because you have to. Some people might tell you some things you don't like. You have to have some strong tolerance in tolerable to be able to put up with that. The other one is vulnerability. Working in sales, you're constantly vulnerable. Like you're doing presentations. I'm vulnerable right now. I'm feeling vulnerable. I don't know if my communication skills are up to scratch to be able to talk to everybody. Sometimes you just don't feel, am I saying the right things? Are people liking what I'm saying right now? Is it making sense, etc., etc.? It's vulnerable. You're vulnerable, and you have to be okay with that. I've gotten to be comfortable with being vulnerable for a while now since working in sales, and you have to be able to show that. You have to be able to show your flaws. One thing I've noticed throughout my career in sales, the people that are perfect, the people that are exceptional, perfect, robotic communication skills don't work well, because it comes back to the empathy part. People just don't gel with those types of people. Like, if you're perfect, I can't relate to you. I just can't. So I think vulnerability in sales is almost a good thing, because it shows your human side, and people connect with you more when you're vulnerable, and you know you're not perfect, then you're okay with that. No one's perfect. So if you're not able to be vulnerable, maybe a career in sales is not for you. The other one, which comes down to the resilience factor, is rejection. You have to be able to deal with rejection, and you have to be okay with rejection. You're constantly going to be rejected in sales, so that you need to be completely fine with that. Communication skills. You have to have strong sales acumen, business acumen, and good communication skills. So I don't mean perfect communication skills. You have to have good communication skills, confidence to be able to speak to CEOs, managing directors, C-suite executives. That's key in sales. So if you have all the others and you really want a career in sales, I think working on your communication skills, no matter what stage you're at in your career, is a smart thing to do. I'm currently taking a presentation class online. So you're constantly refining your communication skills. And the other final trait, I think, is initiative. In sales, you have to be able to take initiative when somebody's not there to maybe tell you what to do, right? So pick up the phone and call people, go generate meetings, put together a proposal for a client that no one's even told you to put together. So take initiative, be on the front foot constantly. You have to be able to take initiative. If you're not willing to take initiative, sales is maybe not for you. So those are, I think, some important personality traits that you have to succeed in sales. If anyone has any questions about those, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to chat more about it. So my favorite part, the sales process. So I'll go back to the start. I mentioned, out of the hundreds of athletes I've spoken to, ex-athletes who are now high-performing sales professionals, they all embrace the struggle. So what is the struggle in sales? Here it is right here, the sales process. So in most companies, most typically, this is your day-to-day, and this is what a sales process would look like. So there's 5 parts to a sales process. The first one is prospecting. So I'm going to give an example that I'm working for a radio station. That was the career that I've most worked in, selling advertising for a radio station. So I'm a media sales professional, account, business development manager, right? So prospecting is the first part of the sales process. What businesses can I hit up about advertising on the radio? So I have to generate a hit list of businesses. So you do your thorough research. Who can benefit the most from advertising on the radio? Could be a Google search, could be look on LinkedIn. So what you do, you write down a number of companies for your hit list. You write down their phone number, and you find a decision maker. And that decision maker typically can be found on LinkedIn now, right? Everybody should be using LinkedIn for their business development activity. The moment you find the decision maker for each company, you send them a LinkedIn request connection. And when they accept, or if you want to get LinkedIn Premium, it's around $60 to $70 per month. You can actually message them straight away, and you do a quick message introduction of who you are, what your company does, and how you can help them. So that way, it's generating you a hit list. You've already sent a bit of a message to the person or the company that you're going to call or potentially offer your services. And then basically that's prospecting. You're generating a hit list of companies to call. The next stage is the phone call. Now you have your hit list, and you might have already sent some messages to the decision makers. You simply pick up the phone and call them. So this is where the cold calling part comes in hand. Is if you've messaged them on LinkedIn, I find those more comfortable. You've already messaged them on LinkedIn, so it's like, hey, just following up on our LinkedIn correspondence. It's a bit warmer. The reason is it's still a cold call, and yes, you have to cold call in sales, don't get me wrong, but you can also get a lot of activity these days on messaging on LinkedIn, like I said. However, nothing beats following up with a phone call as well. And occasionally you might not be able to message somebody on LinkedIn, so you have to go straight to the phone call. Now, the more research you do, the more valid business reason you find in contacting someone, the cold call becomes more of a warm call, because hey, they actually might need your service or your product. It actually might benefit their business. So to do that, the more research you do in the prospecting part, and the key in the research in the prospecting part, I call it finding a VBR. Finding a valid business reason to call someone. If you don't have a valid business reason, and again, comes back to the empathy part, comes back to this communication, sales, and business acumen. If you can't find a valid business reason, hey, talk to your sales manager. Go ask somebody. Why should I contact this particular company to advertise on the radio? So there needs to be a valid business reason. So when you do the phone call, or even in the LinkedIn message, that VBR needs to be in the message, okay? I've asked a lot of athletes have asked me, is working in sales of those guys that call you at dinner time trying to sell you insurance or telecommunication services? Absolutely not. Get that out of your head right now. That's not what B2B sales is about. I don't know how those people make money, but anyway. So that's the phone call. The purpose of the phone call is to generate a meeting. Get in front of them. These days it's Zoom. When COVID's over, face-to-face meetings will be much better. The meeting is all about uncovering a problem or an opportunity with a client. So your valid business reason on the phone has gotten you the meeting. Now it's all about finding a problem or an opportunity, and then where your product or service can come and solve that problem, or gravitate them or help them achieve that opportunity. Two rules I have in the meeting, and one is the 70-30 rule. So 70% of the time, the client should be doing all the talking and you should be doing 30% of the talking. If you catch yourself talking more than the client, you've lost the deal. The more the client talks, the more they'll like you, they'll remember you, they get passionate about the business. So how do you get the client to, and the more opportunity you have of finding that problem or uncovering an opportunity, right? So how do you get the client to talk 70% of the time and you 30% of the time? And the other rule that I have, and the quote that I live my life by, is the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions. I'll say that again. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions. Not just questions you ask externally, but questions you ask internally about yourself as well. Like, should I go to the gym today? What happens if I go to the gym today? Is a better question. Healthy, I'll feel good, etc., etc. Just a quick example. So the better questions you ask your client or prospects, the better answers you'll get. So typically a what or how question, open-ended question. Refrain from asking yes or no questions. It's more, obviously, yeah, what a how question gives a longer answer. And the smarter questions you ask, the more that they'll talk, and then you'll find a problem or an opportunity within that business, and here comes your solution. Which brings me to the fourth sales process, the fourth part, which is the presentation. So now you've come up with a solution, or you've found a problem, you've come up with a solution for that problem, or not, you found an opportunity, and here's what we can do to achieve this opportunity. You say to the client, great, awesome. Well, what I'll do, I'll go back to the radio station, we'll put a bit of a marketing campaign together, and I'll come back next week and present to you the solution. Then you come back, and in the solution part, again, you still want to ask a lot of questions from the client, but this is where you shine. This is where your presentation, your solution has basically you're telling the client what the solution is to their problem, and this is where you sell your product or service, and this is where you try and close the deal in the presentation part. Typically, and especially in large enterprise sales, you most likely will not close the deal in that initial presentation. So the fifth sales process is the follow-up. So how are you nurturing your leads? When are you following up? Basically, you follow up until you get a yes, sales closed, sign the deal, or I like to say, not right now. I mean, if you get a cold hard no, obviously leave them alone, stop following up, maybe touch base again in 6 months. It could be a not right now, then you maybe nurture and follow up once every month, once every 2 weeks. You kind of use your common sense on that. So follow up is highly, highly, highly important. You constantly have to follow up your leads. Now, out of that sales process, what is the struggle? What is the hardest part that most people can't deal with? And I think this is where most people are less likely to succeed in sales, or find it hard and leave, or just completely get out of the sales industry, is the prospecting and the phone call. If you're able to, so the meeting, the presentation is like the game. It's the fun part. It's great. You're in front of a client. They like you. They gave you the meeting. You enjoy it. It's really fun, that part. However, the prospecting, the phone call, and then even the follow-up, that's hard. That's struggle. That's grunt work. You're probably going to lose a lot of the times. You're going to get rejected. But it's somebody's ability to continually prospect, to continually make the phone call, and continually follow up is the difference whether you succeed or not in sales. So that's what a day-to-day looks like. Then you might break up your day. You might do, I don't know, Mondays is for prospecting, Tuesdays is for the phone call, etc., etc. Or you might say the first 2 hours on a Monday I'm prospecting, this afternoon I'm making phone calls, I'm organizing meetings only on Wednesdays and Thursdays. It's up to you, and your sales managers, leaders can help you with how you process your day. But that's what sales is all about, right there. So if anyone has any questions or wants to know a bit more detail about the sales process, please let me know, ask me questions. So just quickly, the benefits of working in sales. I mean, there's a lot: confidence, communication skills, negotiation skills, learning how to sell. Especially if you want to run your own business, sales teaches you how to sell. And when you're running your own business, you have to know how to sell to generate cash. In any business, cash is king. If you don't have cash, you don't have a business. To generate cash, you have to know how to sell. So that's the biggest advantage in working in sales. Some of the other ones are creating a network. I'll give you a quick example of what I mean by creating a network. About 1.5 years ago, I had an athlete, he was a former cricket player, who wanted to be a business analyst. And he didn't have any experience as a business analyst. So I told him, how about you work in recruitment for a recruitment agency that recruits business analysts, right? So it's an entry-level role. Salary was around 65K base, and then he actually did really well and started making commissions, and he was earning about 140K, I believe. So he was constantly recruiting business analysts, and he was building a network of himself with high-level decision makers who are hiring business analysts. And 1 year into the role, one of his clients approached him and said, "Hey, I really like the way you've been dealing with me. I really like what you're about. We're actually hiring an entry-level business analyst at the moment. It's paying $750 a day. Would you be interested in applying for that role?" He did, and he landed that role. So that's what a career in sales can do for you. Same as me, I worked in sales for about 8 years before starting my own business, and the network that I've built throughout those 8 years is making my job at the moment easier, because I already know a lot of business owners. I have a huge network out there of people that I can approach and ask to hire athletes. So building a network is a huge, huge, huge advantage in working in sales, especially now during COVID, when I'm seeing a lot of athletes are struggling to enter certain fields because they have a lack of experience, or they just don't have a network, they don't know people. Hey, go work in sales for a couple of years, and even if you hate it, I wouldn't tell this to clients obviously, but even if you hate it, do it for 2 years, build yourself a network, and then go work in that field that you wanted to, because now you know people and you can approach certain companies yourself. And you've also built other skills, which is communication, confidence. That's the biggest thing, biggest skills that you learn in sales. And bottom line, in sales can be a lucrative career. You can make a lot of money in sales if you do well as well, which is always a plus. So I hope that makes sense. If anyone has any questions around that, please do let me know. I also do one-on-one coaching with athletes who want to work in sales. Anywhere from entry level to senior executives, and I've got programs that go from 6 weeks to 12 months. So it could be for athletes who are just transitioning, or they might be in their last year or so of their career, but thinking about a career in sales. I can work with you one-on-one to make sure that you're ready to go, upskilled, and have the right sales and business acumen to be able to succeed, all the way to senior executives who maybe are looking to enter a different industry or just want to be higher performers in their current industry. I also work one-on-one with those types of athletes. So all about high performance and living your optimal life is the one-on-one coaching that I do, which I call Another Plan A, especially designed more for the entry-level athletes who are looking to transition out of sport. I help you create a career path in sales that's on that same passion and fulfillment level as your sport. So if you want to get in touch with me, any questions, feel free to give me a call there. Again, the grunt of that was the sales process. So if you are working in sales and want to know more about the sales process, ask me about how I split my day between those 5 steps in the sales process. Happy to talk to you about that one-on-one as well. So feel free to call me or email me. Yeah, happy to chat to you guys whenever. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope it shed some light and gave you insight into what a career in sales looks like. Certainly since I started working in sales after basketball, I haven't looked back. It's the reason why I was able to start my own business and somewhat survive now in COVID. But yeah, any questions, please get in touch. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a great rest of the day. Take care, guys.